Breaking news! The Baltimore Ravens find themselves at a critical crossroads. The question of whether or not to extend head coach John Harbaugh's contract has sparked heated debate among fans, analysts, and even within the organization itself. On the surface, Harbaugh's tenure has been an undeniable success. He's a Super Bowl winning coach, a proven leader, and a stable figure for the Ravens franchise. But should Baltimore commit to him for the long haul, or is it time to let the pressure mount and see what happens? I want to hear from you. Are you in favor of John Harbaugh staying with the Ravens, or is it time for him to go? Comment below. And if you're a true Ravens fan who never misses a game, hit that like button hard. Last season, Harbaugh showed why he's still one of the best coaches in the NFL. After starting 0-2, the Ravens rallied to finish the regular season 13-4, proving that when their backs are against the wall, they thrive. That's where Harbaugh shines the most, when he's being questioned, when the pressure is immense, when everyone is ready to write him off. That's Harbaugh's magic. But is that reason enough to give him a new contract now? Or would it be smarter to let him practice under immense pressure, knowing that history suggests he thrives in those situations? Looking back, the most defining moments of Harbaugh's coaching career have come when his job security was in question. Take Lamar Jackson's rookie season. The Ravens were spiraling, and many believed Harbaugh was on the way out. Reports even suggested a mutual parting of ways was coming. But when Joe Flacco went down, Harbaugh and Jackson turned the season around, winning the division and making the playoffs. It was an improbable comeback, a signature Harbaugh moment. The same pattern has played out over the years. When the pressure is at its highest, Harbaugh seems to coach at his best. So why not embrace that reality? Instead of a contract extension, let him coach the upcoming season as a lame duck coach. The Ravens have historically avoided this scenario, preferring coaching stability, but imagine the motivation it would create. If Harbaugh wins a Super Bowl, then he earns the right to write his own contract, just like Joe Flacco did after the 2012 season. If he doesn't, then the Ravens and Harbaugh can part ways amicably without a messy firing or contract buyout. It's a win-win. Of course, there are risks. If the team knows the coach might not return, does that create uncertainty in the locker room? Would players still fully buy into his leadership? And if the Ravens do have another strong regular season but fall short in the playoffs, is it fair to let him walk? These are the difficult questions Baltimore's front office must weigh as they determine the future of the franchise. Then there's the issue of roster decisions. Key players like Brandon Stevens, Marcus Williams, and Ben Cleveland have uncertain futures. Should the Ravens invest in these players or look for replacements? And what about the draft? Should Baltimore target a wide receiver, an offensive lineman, or a defensive playmaker? Every move the front office makes will shape not only the roster but also the perception of whether Harbaugh is being set up for success or failure in what could be his defining season. The Ravens have consistently been a team on the cusp of greatness, but something has held them back from getting over the hump. Is it Harbaugh? Is it the chemistry between him and Lamar Jackson? Is it a matter of bad luck? That's the mystery the Ravens must solve this year, and the best way to get the answer might just be to let Harbaugh coach under the highest pressure possible. So now, Ravens fans, it's your turn. Should Baltimore extend John Harbaugh now, or should they make him prove it with one last pressure-packed season? What's the right move for the future of this team? Let's hear your thoughts in the comments. And that's where things get even more interesting, because if the Ravens decide to hold off on extending Harbaugh, they're not just testing their head coach, they're testing the entire culture of this team. For years, the Ravens have been built on stability. They don't panic. They don't make knee-jerk decisions. They trust their process. But let's be honest, how has that worked out in recent seasons? Time and time again, Baltimore has been one of the best regular season teams in the league, only to collapse when the stakes are highest. Playoff disappointment has become a frustrating trend, and at some point, you have to ask, is Harbaugh really the guy who can take them back to the top? This isn't about disrespecting his accomplishments. Harbaugh is one of the most successful head coaches in the NFL. He's won a Super Bowl. He's built a consistent winner. He's developed countless players into stars. But the problem isn't the past, it's the future. Can the Ravens keep doing the same thing and expect different results? One of the biggest concerns with Harbaugh's coaching in recent years has been the inability to make the right adjustments at the right times. Take last season's playoff loss, for example. Was he the primary reason the Ravens fell short? No. But did he contribute? Absolutely. Game management, clock management, and in-game decision-making have been common criticisms throughout his career. The Ravens had one of the most dominant rosters in the NFL, yet they still found themselves watching the Super Bowl from home. And let's not forget the bigger issue. Something isn't clicking between Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson, and the Ravens' overall team dynamic. It's not just about losing games, it's about how they lose them. Whether it's injuries, late-game collapses, or questionable coaching decisions, something has prevented this team from taking that final step. If Baltimore commits to Harbaugh long-term and they continue to fall short, what then? They would be locked into another contract with a coach who may have already peaked with this team. That's why the idea of putting Harbaugh on the hot seat for this season makes so much sense. It forces urgency, it demands results, and it gives the Ravens the flexibility to make the best decision for the franchise moving forward. If Harbaugh proves he can win under pressure, great, he gets his contract. If not, Baltimore can start fresh without the drama of a mid-season firing. Now, let's talk about the alternative, extending Harbaugh now. If the Ravens do it, they're making a statement. We believe in this guy no matter what. That would send a strong message of stability to the team, but it would also remove one of Harbaugh's greatest motivators, pressure. If he's locked into a long-term deal, does he still coach with that same edge? Does he still feel the same urgency? These are questions the Ravens front office has to consider. But this situation doesn't just affect Harbaugh, it impacts the entire roster. Key players are at a crossroads in their careers. Brandon Stevens, for example, struggled last season but was still given a starting role all year. Would a new coaching staff make different personnel decisions? Would they bring in fresh ideas that maximize the talent already on the team? And what about the upcoming draft? Do the Ravens prioritize a wide receiver to give Lamar Jackson more weapons? Do they shore up the offensive line? Every decision this offseason will be made with the knowledge that Harbaugh's future is uncertain, and that could shape the entire direction of the franchise. And let's not ignore one more critical factor. If the Ravens don't extend Harbaugh now, they run the risk of losing him entirely. If he has a strong season and Baltimore doesn't lock him in early, other teams will come calling. He would immediately become one of the top coaching candidates in the NFL. Would the Ravens regret letting him go, or would they see it as an opportunity to bring in someone who can finally get them over the hump? This is the kind of decision that defines franchises. The Ravens are right on the edge of greatness. Do they trust the coach who's gotten them this far, or do they take a risk and bet on a future without him? That's the dilemma. Now, Ravens fans, I want to hear from you. Should Baltimore extend Harbaugh right now, or should they roll the dice and let him prove it under pressure? Is it time for a change, or is he still the right guy for the job? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's talk about it. And here's where it gets even trickier, because this decision isn't just about Harbaugh. It's about Lamar Jackson. It's about the Ravens' championship window. It's about whether Baltimore is truly maximizing the talent on this roster before it's too late. Lamar is in his prime. The Ravens' defense was one of the best in the league last year. They built a team that should be competing for Super Bowls, not just playoff wins. But if Harbaugh stays and they fall short again, do they risk wasting another year of Jackson's career? Does the front office owe it to him to at least explore a fresh start with a new head coach? There's also the emotional side of this. Harbaugh isn't just any coach, he's been in Baltimore since 2008. He's built deep relationships with players, staff, and the city itself. Moving on from him wouldn't be easy, and if the Ravens take that step, they better be sure they have a better option waiting. So, Ravens fans, what's the move? Is Harbaugh still the right guy, or is it time for change? Sound off in the comments.